Hello student. So this is our next video on Java tutorial series, and in this video we are going to have a discussion about Java tokens, and we are going to see what are Java tokens, how we can use them in a Java program. So let's begin. Now, Java tokens are actually the smallest individual unit in a Java program known as tokens. So you can say these are the smallest unit of a Java program is like, a cell is the smallest unit of a living organism. Same way we can say that tokens are the smallest individual unit of a Java program, and the compiler recognizes them for building up the expression and statement. So using tokens we build expression and then statement. All right, so these you can see are the building blocks of a Java program. A Java program has a collection of tokens as well as comments and the white spaces. So our program is made up of all the different types of tokens, comments and the white spaces. Now, Java language includes basically five types of tokens, and these are actually reserved keywords, identifiers, literals, operators, and separators. All right. So we will discuss one by one each one of them. Now, reserved words. Now, these are actually keywords, or we can say reserve words or reserve keywords or keywords in general have a special meaning in Java program. They have very special meaning in our program and cannot be used them for naming a variable or a classes or a methods or etc. So remember that while naming any variable, classes and method, it is user's choice. So we need to know that we cannot use these keywords because they have a special meaning. We'll have to use a name which is different from the keyword. Alright. All the keywords are written in lower cases. That also you need to remember. These all are written in lowercase letters. Since this is important point, since Java is a very case sensitive language, we can use these keywords as an identifier. Remember, we can still use these keywords as an identifier, but this statement says we cannot use. But see how? By changing one or more letters to uppercase, because we know that they are all in lowercase. So if we change any particular letter or letters to uppercase, they can still be used for naming a variable, class, or a method. How? Let's see an example. Like import is a keyword. All right, as you can see, this import is a keyword, so cannot be used for naming any class, method, or a variable. But using import where I is capital, have a look at this I is capital where this is small. At the same time you can have any other difference, let's say this T is capital whereas this is small. So these two will still work and it can be used. Alright, so this you have to remember that by default reserved words cannot be used, but if you are slightly changing them, the cases, they can still be used. But this is not a good practice to use the keywords by changing the cases to name any class, variable or method. So this need to be avoided. Now, identifiers. These are actually program design tokens, you can say, or programmer design tokens. Who actually these are tokens only, but designed not by the language itself, but the programmer. They are used for naming classes, methods, variables, objects, packages, and interfaces. Alright, so these are actually user's choice. While making a program, we need to name a class or a method or a variable, objects, packages, and interfaces. So these all the names provided by the users are called identifiers. Like we have a particular name, that is our identity. Same way every class, method, variable, object, packages and interfaces have a particular name given by the programmer or by the user. Those are called identifiers. Now there are certain rules that we have to follow while naming, that there are some restrictions like can have alphabets, digits and underscore, the symbol underscore and the dollar sign only. Please remember, while naming an identifier, it has to be a combination of alphabets, digits, and only two symbols are allowed, that is underscore and dollar sign. No other symbol from the keyboard is allowed, only underscore and dollar. Alright. Now, must not begin with a digit. This is also important. Although digit can be used, but should not begin with the digit. Any name should not begin with a digit. Like, let's take an example of 9A is not possible, but A9 is possible because 9A begin with a digit. If we are naming any class as 9A, that is not possible, but A9 is possible. Now, uppercase and lowercase letters are distinct, like just we discussed in the previous example of in the keyword also, uppercase and lowercase are letters are distinct. So we can have a variable with the name A, capital A, and another variable can have a name as small a. Both will work and exist at the same time because capital A and small a can be two different variables and can exist at the same time because their cases are different. So this also you have to keep in mind, but normally we don't do that. Then they can have of any length. Please remember, the length is not a restriction. You can have any long name also. Length is not a limit, but obviously we will not be using any identifier with a quite a long name because it's very difficult every time to write it. For example, let's say average, first day of month. As you can see, there are four different words, but there is no space. All right, you cannot give the space. Okay, either you write them just close to each other, taking the first letter as capital just for a practice, or student name with the underscore, marks dollar. As you can see, the dollar symbol is also allowed. Then subject one. As you can see, digit is there, but after the word, not before that. One subject is not allowed. So I hope that you are getting it. Now move to the next. Now literals. Now literals in Java are also called constant. Please remember, the constant or literal, actually this is nothing but the same. Now literals in Java are actually a sequence of characters, can be a digit, letters, or any other characters that represent constant value to be stored in a variable. So that means if we assign any value, give any value to a variable to hold it, so that value is called literals. Let's say if I'll say int a equals to 10, in that case that value 10 which is given to a variable a is nothing but a literal. Now, so actually these are simply, in simple language you can say, these are actually the values stored by a particular variable is literal. So let's see how many types of literals are there. There are five major categories. One is integer literal. Let's say any integer value which is a whole number, let's say 45 or 563. These are integer literal because these are integer values. Now floating literals, also called real literals. Okay, so these are actually value with the fractional part also. Let's say 98.3, 3.14 or 0.375. These are actually floating values. So these are also called floating literals or real literal. Same way character literals, like storing a single character, and we know that single character need to be enclosed in single inverted comma. So let's say small a or capital M or something. Now, same way string literals. String is nothing but a group of characters. So that makes a string. So string need to be enclosed within double inverted comma. You can see double inverted comma. Let's say name of a student. It can be a whole paragraph or a line or a sentence. Then lastly, we have Boolean literals. Now Boolean has a fixed value. You know, either it will be true or false. You cannot store any other value than this. Either it will be true or false. So for Boolean literal, the two values or the are fixed, that can store only two value, either of the two value. All right, nothing else. So this is about literal. Now let's see the next. This is operator. Although operator is a separate topic and I'll be making a detailed video on this, but here we will quickly look at it. An operator is a symbol that takes one or more arguments and operate on them to produce a result. So this is nothing but a kind of symbol which works on two or more argument, and after evaluating it give us the result. Now let's see the type of operators. although we'll have a detailed video later on. Arithmetic operators. Now, arithmetic operator to perform arithmetic tasks like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and this is modulus operator, which give us the mod of a particular number. Okay, while computing. Now, relational operator. Now, these are lesser than, greater than, lesser than, equals to, greater than, equals to, not equals to, or equals to. So these are used to perform a kind of or check the relation between the two given variable. Okay, that we often use in our program. Now, logical operators. These are basically three: and, or, and not. Okay, so to join two different condition, we need these, either it can be and condition or a not. So for the symbol is double ampersand, or these are called pipe symbols, or this is exclamation mark. So we'll be using these symbols while joining the two different expression, we can say. Now, assignment operator, this is single equals to. This you have to keep in mind that single equals to is actually assignment operator, whereas double equals to is actually equals to operator. But this is relational operator, whereas this is assignment operator. It is used to assign the value to a variable. Let's say if I say int a equals to 5, here this means what? This doesn't mean a equals to 5. Normally we call it as a equals to 5. It means we are assigning value 5 to the variable a. If I write int a equals to 5, it means value 5 is being assigned, or literal 5 is being assigned to the variable with the name a. Alright, so although we'll have a detailed video on this, now we'll have increment and decrement operator. These are actually plus plus or minus minus. This is increment and this is decrement. To increment the value by 1 and to decrement the value by 1. Okay. Now, in a given expression that we often use in looping and all right. Now, coming to conditional operator, that is also a ternary operator in this case. Now, this is a combination of expression. The condition comes over here, then the expression one, and then followed by expression two with question mark and colon. So this is called conditional operator. Okay, now coming to bitwise operator. Now these bitwise operator actually basically deals with the bit operations. Okay, these are actually used for manipulation of data at the bit level. Okay, and these operators are actually used to test the testing the bits. Okay, and then shifting them, or right shift, this is left shift, or the right shift, or the that is actually shift right with the zero filling. Okay, uh, then we have that and or a not operation, but bitwise and bitwise, this is bitwise and this is bitwise or, and this is exclusive or. All right, so actually, and this is one's complement and all. So basically we don't use this in our program more often. Okay, now coming to spatial operators, and these are actually instance of. It seems like something identifier or something, but no, it's a spatial operator called instance of. And let's say how we'll use, let's say person instance of student. In this case, this person is, let's say, is an object. Instance of tells us that this object person is belongs to the class called student, so it will return either true or false. If we have an object person of class student, then this will return true. But if there is no object with the name person of class student, it will return false. Okay, so this is actually just to check whether that person, which is an object, is an instance of this particular class called student or not. Now, next is the dot operator, which we often use to invoke the member of a class. Let's say we have this object person of class student. Now, using the object, we are invoking the member of that class, in this case this method, with the dot operator, because later on we'll see that we need a dot operator to invoke any particular method or a member of a class with the help of the object of that particular class. In this case it is person. Okay, so now let's move to the Next, that is separators. Now, separators are the symbols used to indicate where groups of code are divided or and arranged. Okay, they are basically define the shape and the function of our code. Let's say parenthesis. So we use parenthesis normally where, let's say, in case of this method, we have this method called compute, which is public void compute. These are access modifier, and this is keyword that we will discuss in our later video. But here, let's say this is the name of the method compute, because this method may or may not accept any argument. It can accept the argument or not. So this bracket parenthesis is being used. If it accept any argument, then we'll have to pass argument over here, otherwise we can leave it blank. Same way, braces, these are actually curly braces. So to write any program or any class, we need to have these braces open and close, and whatever we want to write inside this class has to write within this curly bracket open and close. Same way for a method definition, we need curly bracket open and close, and same for the looping construct, we need curly bracket open and close, and everything we write inside it. Now come the square bracket or called brackets. These are actually used for an array kind of variable where we pass the uh, some particular value inside it. That is also called its index. So for an array we use square brackets. Now semicolon is a kind of separator which used to terminate any particular statement in Java. So this statement is ending over here. We are declaring a variable of type integer and ends with semicolon. Then comma is to used to separate the variables or to separate the any particular you can say identifier. So in this case, int x comma y comma z. So what is happening over here? I'm declaring three different variable of integer type separating with comma, whereas here I'm declaring one variable only of integer type with the name marks. But if I want to declare multiple variables, we'll have to separate them with comma. Now coming to period, that is dot. So do not get confused this dot with the that dot operator. This is separator. Let's say this separator we are using in this case just to separate the what do you call, let's say in the import statement we sometime often use it, to import java.io.star. In that case, we will not be getting confused with this dot is just to separate the package with the another package and then to the class. So I think this was the uh, explanation about the Java's token. I hope that that is useful to you. Thank you very much.